Hello and welcome to another video produced by John Pearson for the Villages Theater Company. In today's video, we're going to be talking a little bit about the DMX controller that we have available to us in the Americana room of Mulberry Rec Center. I should point out that this version we're using today for the demonstration is a digital version, which is on the computer itself, whereas the actual hardware will show in another video. This is identical in structure and in function. It's again in another video we'll show that. So today we're using the version 3.1.0.23, which is slightly more advanced than the actual hardware version is that we'll show later. Again, a little bit about the overview. This is an AV40, and 40 means it's got 40 channels that can be configured for 40 different fixtures. And in our case, I will show the setup that we have. And not to go into huge detail with this, but each fixture is assigned a channel, and it's also assigned a set of DMX addresses and a universe, and it's a device type. And we mentioned in another video that we have 16 ETC color source spots, and they are assigned to channels 1 through 16, and you can see that as we scroll through these and so forth all the way down. Now on the view area on the lower right hand side here, you'll see that the numbers 1 through 16 exist all in one row, and we have configured it that way to closely resemble what the front pipe looks like. And if you haven't viewed the first video on the Mulberry setup, we recommend you do that before watching the rest of this one. It'll make more sense. So 1 through 16 are all color source spot deep blues, and the second or middle pipe are the ETC color source pars, and they're all identical. You'll see in here, and 25 through 32 again are all identical. And one of the first things that has to be done, and again this is not really the purpose of this today, but what has to be done is that the fixtures have to be patched into the controller to match their DMX settings on board. And most of these, if not all of them, automatically will do that. So again, that's not something that you as a end user will have to typically deal with. It's all set up for you. And this grid structure that you see right here is kind of a view from above. If you can picture from the last video, the front pipe 1 through 16, the middle pipe 17 through 24, and the back pipe 25 through 32. Now, each of these sliders can go from 0 to 100%, and again, I'll show this in another video, but as we move number 1 up, it would be turning fixture number 1 on. This would turn fixture 2 on, fixture 3, and so forth, all the way up to fixture 16 on the front pipe. And if I got to fixture 17, that would be the beginning of the second row. Now if you direct your attention down here, you'll see that in this case 17 changes its intensity as I change its intensity. And the fact that it goes out completely tells me I'm at 0. 18, it'll go all the way up to 100 and so forth. We can also change the level over here on this side with the scroller. We can skip the slider bar and we can do it through this functionality. And we can control each of these channels by either clicking on them on the touch screen, clicking on them on the actual controller bar, or by moving the slider up. Any of those three ways will select that channel. Now, it's often not very practical to just turn lights on with sliders up, down. It becomes very difficult to say, oh, I have to have 7 and 10 on right now, and getting them to come to the correct location, the correct intensity, and possibly the correct color balance is very difficult to do. You'd have to continually move sliders up, down, and so forth. So built into a controller are called playbacks. And these playbacks have already been programmed. And we'll go through these playbacks in more detail on another video. But basically, a playback is a recorded combination of channels that have been set for intensities and also for RGB balance. And they could actually be set as strobes if you wanted to. So just to give you an example, I'm going to bring up slider number 28 under the playback mode. And as I do that, if you look along the right hand side, you'll see that 1 through 16 are getting brighter and brighter. That's because we have programmed playback number 28 to turn all of the 16 front lights on simultaneously, and as I slide them up, they're changing their intensity from 0 all the way up to 100%. If I pull that slider down and go to slider number 29, which is playback 29, if I move that up, you'll notice that the middle pipe, 17 through 24, is doing the same thing. They again have been programmed that way, so all of those 8 lights will run together. And last but not least, number 30 brings up the back row of lights and brings them back down. Now you'll see purple colors down here at the bottom, and you'll see what I'll call a greenish yellow color at the bottom. When buttons have been programmed to be playbacks, they take on the purple color. When they haven't been programmed, they remain black with white lettering. So 35, 36, and 37 have no functionality at this time. If I bring them up, none of these fixtures will light up. Likewise, numbers 1 through 20 haven't been programmed at this time. I can bring up playback number 1, and nothing happens. So I'll bring that back down. Now, you'll see this 31. We're going to talk more in detail about this later, but this is called a chase or a sequence. And when I bring this up, you're going to start to see some funny things happening over here on this side. And again, we're going to talk more about this later, but a chase or a sequence is visually indicated on the controller with a different color. So 31 is programmed as a chase, and it happens to be the only one that we have programmed at this time. So that's a little bit of an overview. The main things that you'll be concerned with as a user of this device would be the channel buttons. Channel buttons can control each channel independently, or playback buttons that have already been programmed for you. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the name of this show. And when you turn the unit on, it will load automatically to this show right here. And that's the one that the VTC will always start with. We'll always start with that one. And down the road, we'll talk about how we might change this. But for now, this is really all you need. So we'll talk more about how to program this a little bit later. But for now, that's all we need.